Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And now that we're halfway through 2026, it's time to talk about what are the best albums released this year so far. I'm going to give a top 15, starting with my number 15, which is Terravia and their album A New World, which is a progressive metal album in my near masterpiece tier this year. And all of these albums on my list are at least in my near masterpiece tier rating. The top two got my full masterpiece rating. Check out the track The Origin for a preview of this one. This is Terravia's debut album. They're a Norwegian band. It's a 58-minute album. It only has 5 tracks, and it ends with an over 17-minute prog epic title track. If you're a fan of Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, Opeth, and Almo, definitely check this out. Those are all bands that I love, so of course this is right up my alley. At number 14, I've got Carcius with Black Soul Sickness. Kind of on the border between progressive rock and metal. Got some art rock, got some jazz fusion, hard rock, all mixed in. Also in my near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Out of Nothing for a preview here. This is the 7th album by Carcius. They're a Canadian band. And I had heard their 2022 album, Gray, White, Silver, Yellow, and Gold. I thought it was an excellent album, but I didn't realize that the follow-up was coming out this year until I saw the Rhyme Signatures video about it. So thanks for putting that on my radar to Rhyme Signatures. I love this band, plus they're Canadian, so I'm double excited by this band as a fellow Canadian. I think this album surpassed their last one in quality. It starts with a 13.5-minute prog epic called Wallow. And the vocals on this album strangely reminded me of the band Disturbed for some reason, but in a good way. Very powerful with the ability to do both soft and heavy tracks with grit. Check it out if that sounds good to you. Black Soul Sickness by Carcius, number 14. My number 13 also came out on May 8th, just like Carcius. Terravia came out in March 2nd. My number 13 is Karmanjaka with their album Diamond Morning. This is progressive metal, gent, thal. It's got some post-metal influences. And check out the track Dove for a preview here. This is Karmanjaka's 2nd album. They're a Swedish band, and I thought their debut album was excellent. Their 2 EPs before this were also very good, and the 2 singles I heard from this album were excellent. Those were Dove and Eyes Seeing Eyes. So I was excited to check this out, and it's a really interesting album for fans of Tesseract. It's genty, but it's very catchy. It's got a lot of soaring, emotional, clean vocals. There's even some rap style vocals during some parts, which I usually don't like, but they did it really well here. And the music behind it is so good. And the album's so good, I decided this band, like pretty much every band that I'm talking about today, has earned a spot on my ever-growing list of favorite bands. I'll make sure I follow any music that Karmanjaka releases now to the end of time. Definitely check out Diamond Morning by Karmanjaka if you like this progressive metal gent thal sound. At number 12, I've got Cryptic Shift with their album Over Space and Super Time. This is avant-garde progressive technical death metal. It's got some thrash metal, some jazz fusion influences. Also in my near masterpiece tier, like all the others except for my top 2. And check out the track Cryogenically Frozen for a preview of this. This is Cryptic Shift's 2nd album. They're a band from the UK. If you're a fan of bands like Cynic, Vector, and Blood Incantation, imagine those 3 bands mixed together. That's kind of what this sounds like to me. It contains a 29-minute prog epic and another 20-minute epic track. The whole album is almost 79 minutes long, so it's a big time commitment. And most of it is consumed by the 2 epic tracks that are over 20 minutes long. But yeah, very crazy, very technical, adventurous, progressive death metal. I think Cynic is a good, like Cynic's debut album, but imagine a much more modern sounding version of that. And you have Cryptic Shift with Overspace and Supertime. At number 11, I've got Elder with their album Through Zero. This is heavy psychedelic progressive stoner rock with doom metal influences. Also in my near masterpiece tier, check out the track Capture Release for a preview. This is Elder's seventh album. They're an American band, but they're based in Germany. And I like everything I've heard by them. I have just finished a deep dive on their discography, and they're quickly becoming another one of my favorite bands. This album, I think, is their best album, and it's what inspired me to go back and listen to everything they've done. If you're a fan of Tool and Intronaut, I think you'll like this. Check it out. Or Slift, fans of Slift, I think will like this. At number 10, I've got Abstracted with their album Heraith. This is progressive technical death metal with thrash metal and gent influences. And also my near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Axis for a preview here. This is Abstracted's second album. They're from Brazil. And I never heard of them before until I checked out the early single on this called Languish, which features Cheney Crab from the band Entheos, which is a band I enjoy. And that track is just an intensely heavy progressive death metal track. Really well performed and produced. So I checked out the whole album. Actually, I checked out another early single first called Axis, which was also awesome. The whole album continues the excellence of those first two tracks. Amazing playing from all musicians, strong vocals with both harsh and clean vocals. Some of the guitar and bass parts remind me of Cynic here as well, just like on Cryptic Shift. So I really think fans of Cynic, Persephone, and the Heart Machine will like this. The clean vocals have a bit of an emo vibe to them. And to me, the vocals sound a bit like if Mike Semensky, who sang on the Intervals album A Voice Within, as well as the Heart Machines album Disclosure, if you combine his style with Ronnie Radke's sound on the debut Escape the Fate album, that's kind of what the clean vocals sound like to me here. Really good. After hearing this, I immediately went back to check out their debut. Also good near masterpiece as well. So this band is really solid. Check out Heraith by Abstracted, my number 10 of the year so far. At number 9, I have Artificial Silence with Hollow Drift. This is symphonic progressive metal with gent, alternative metal, and progressive rock influences. Also near masterpiece, and you got to check out the epic title track Hollow Drift for a preview of this. This is Artificial Silence's second album. They're an American band, and it ends with the epic title track Hollow Drift. It's 23 minutes and 53 seconds long. If you're a fan of Native Construct, Between the Buried and Me, Haken, and Art by Numbers, definitely check this out. Those are all bands that I really love. And this is the first album by Artificial Silence that I heard, but I immediately put them on my favorite band list and went back and checked out their new debut, which is also probably even better than their second album, to be honest. I think their debut might be better than this. But yeah, this is definitely a very strong contender for my year-end top 30 album list, or however big of a list I'll make. I mean, all the albums that I'm mentioning today are strong contenders for that. At number 8, I've got Black Orchid Empire and their album Lore. This is progressive alternative metal. It's got gent, it's got alternative rock influences. It's really catchy, and it's another near masterpiece. And this band has been very consistent and releasing an amazing caliber music throughout their whole career. But check out the track Scissor Mouth for a preview of this. I just love this band from the UK. This is their 5th album. If you're a fan of Tesseract, Carnival, Vola, and Tool, check it out. It's like a mix of those bands. It's pretty catchy. It's pretty accessible prog metal. Nothing too out there or experimental. Nothing super adventurous or wacky, but everything is just so well written and performed. The early singles they put out ahead of the album are awesome. Scissormouth, The Labyrinth, Mirror Man, Bloodgood, and Angel Fire. And the whole album lives up to the awesomeness and continues the amazing run of albums they put out so far. It's in similar level of quality to their others. Another near masterpiece from Black Orchid Empire. At number 7, I've got the Hirsch Effect and their album Der Brock, of the progressive post-metal with alternative rock, indie rock, post-hardcore, mathcore, post-punk, symphonic rock all mixed together. Awesome album, near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Der Doppelganger for a preview here. They're a German band, and this is the 7th album by the Hirsch Effect. It's the first full album that I've heard by them, but I checked it out because I really enjoyed the single Die Brook that I heard out of the album. Yeah, the whole album's great. All the lyrics are in German here, so this one's different. Usually I listen to mostly English language music, but I do check out some foreign language albums from time to time, and this one's really awesome. It's very much focused on clean vocals, but there are some moments that get quite heavy and they go into harsh vocals. It's kind of like Carnival meets Benthos, and those are two bands that I love. I hear some Fall of Troy in there as well, and this made me binge listen to their entire discography and earned this band a spot on my ever-growing favorite band list. And yeah, especially Der Doppelganger. Even the name reminded me of Fall of Troy, as they have an album. I think they have an album called Doppelganger or something like that, or a song. It has some parts that reminded me of Fall of Troy. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album currently. So check out Der Brock by the Hirsch Effect. At number 6, I've got something a little different, which is the Claypool Lennon Delirium with their album The Great Paradox and The Golden Egg of Empathy. This is psychedelic rock. It's got progressive rock, art rock, funk rock as well in there. Another near masterpiece. Check out the Golden Egg of Empathy track that features Willow. Really awesome track, really funky bass line that just gets me bobbing my head. And yeah, just love that one. This is the 3rd album by the Claypool Lennon Delirium. They're an American band, and I love their first 2 albums. I love all the early singles I heard from this. And yeah, of course, this is the band that features Les Claypool from Primus on bass, and it features Sean Ono Lennon, son of John Lennon, on guitar, and they both do vocals. And yeah, just great music. And it's really interesting to see Willow featured here. She's Will Smith's daughter. I really enjoyed her last couple albums. And the song with her features just sick, funky bass playing from Les Claypool. He's one of my favorite bass players ever. So check out The Great Paradox and The Golden Egg of Empathy by Claypool Lennon Delirium. At number 5, we've got The Deer Hunter with Sunya. This is progressive art rock with funk, jazz fusion, electronic pop, and symphonic influences. Another near masterpiece from them. Check out the track The Glass Desert 2, Cliffs and Stormlands for a preview. This is the 9th album by the Deer Hunter. They're an American band that I love, and every studio album they put out is a near masterpiece, so I was hoping they'd continue their streak of greatness here. I enjoyed the early single I heard before the album, The Glass Desert 1, but it's always hard to know how great a Deer Hunter album would be from the early singles because you kind of need to hear everything in context, as this is a concept album like most of their albums. And that track in particular, the Glass Desert 1, is part of a suite. Glass Desert 1, 2, and 3, they all flow. This album continues a story in the world built in their last album, Antimai, and it's separate from their concept of their Act 1 to 5 album series. Now, I don't really follow the whole story on these concept albums, but I just love the music on here. The Deer Hunter's done it again, another near masterpiece album. Although I don't think this is quite as good as their Act 4 and Act 5 albums. But it's about on par, though perhaps not quite as good as their last album, Antimai, which I loved. And I definitely need more listens to figure out exactly where this ranks in the Deer Hunter catalog, but they've got a lot more synthesizers going on here than on past work. They even dip their toes into using some auto-tune, Daft Punk sounding vocals from time to time. which I normally don't like, but they use it sparingly and they use it artistically. So I do like it here. And most of the vocals still follow their typical style they've done on past albums. They're expertly performed. They don't have too many effects. They just sound awesome. They have harmony vocals behind them. And it seems like the sonic world of Antamai and Sunya have less of their indie rock and emo influences that their earlier works in the Act series had, but it's got more of jazz, funk, and electronic influences instead. So if that sounds good to you, check out Sunya by The Deer Hunter. Came out March 20th. At number 4, I've got one that came out in June 12th, by OK Goodnight, called Stop Go. This is progressive metal / rock. It's got djent, alternative metal, and math rock influences, and it's another near masterpiece. Check out the track Humpty Dumpty Somebody as a preview here. This is OK Goodnight's third album. They're an American band, and I love their first 2 albums as well. They feature amazing female vocals, mostly clean singing, but some harsh vocals. Lots of beautiful, soft, folky passages, but also some heavy riffing metal sections for fans of Haken, The Deer Hunter, Animals as Leaders, and Bent Knee. Imagine those bands all mixed together. The first single I heard from this album was called 22. It's amazing. So I was looking forward to this. And the whole album by OK Goodnight is amazing, just like their last one. I think I prefer their last one a little bit more than this one, though, because it had a bit more heaviness. But they're both near masterpieces. So imagine Animals as Leaders level instrumental playing, though typically a lot more restrained, with great female vocals and a vibe that all of these players went to music school and are really artsy, like the band Bent Knee. My favorite track is Humpty Dumpty Somebody, because it really has that Animals as Leaders vibe that's also very theatrical and fun. And what makes me think of Animals as Leaders is a style that they use when they play bass, the thumping on it, which I think sounds really cool. And this new album, I think, is a bit more accessible and straightforward. Initially, it doesn't have any of the harsh vocals. Maybe it has like one or whatever, but basically it's more accessible. Starts out strong right away, but the last 4 tracks on the album I think are the best for me. The Show is where it gets a little weird. The intro has male and female quirky spoken word, but it's more like it's yelled than spoken. And the verses are weird, theatrical spoken word yelling, possibly into a megaphone. And the choruses are really nice and melodic on that track. So check out Stop Go by OK Goodnight if that sounds good to you. And at number 3, I've got Carnival and their album Inverses. This is progressive metal with alternative rock, art rock, progressive rock, and I guess, I'd say progressive metal, alternative metal, art rock, prog rock, kind of all mixed together. And I'm putting it in my near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Drone for a preview of this Carnival album. And this is their 4th album. Carnival is an Australian band, and I think all their full-length albums so far have been near masterpieces. The 4 tracks I heard ahead of the album are amazing. All It Takes, which is more on the metal side, sounds a bit like Tesseract, Drone, Aozora, and Opal. So it's hard to pick a favorite, but for now I'm going with Drone. The Guthrie Govan guitar solo in Reanimation is beautiful. Pretty simple and melodic solo for him, but rather than a fast, shreddy one like I know he can do sometimes. But I love the way he uses his bends and his whammy bar to give the melody a lot of expression. And I also really enjoy All It Takes. Every song on this album hits for me. It's Inverses by Carnival. Check it out. Now let's talk about my 2 masterpiece tier albums for the year. At number 2, I've got Periphery with a Pale White Dot. And this is progressive metalcore / djent with alternative metal, electronic, emo, deathcore, and pop influences. Masterpiece tier album. Check out the opening track, Obsession. Really great way to start the album. And this is Periphery's 8th album. They're an American band, and I love everything they do. I love all their albums. I consider most of their albums masterpiece tier, to be honest. So I expected this to be a strong contender for my year-end list if they could maintain their typical level of quality. They've done it again. Great mix of soft moments and heavy moments, clean vocals and harsh vocals, electronic music, pop music, emo, and their signature intense progressive metal and djent. Great guitar playing, great drumming, great production. And Obsession's a great album opener, electronic, melodic verses. It's really intense, brutal metal chorus on there that borders on black metal with harsh vocals that go towards a shriek. I think a lot of people won't like this album though, as much as I do. It's in a weird space where the soft pop and emo moments are way too soft for metal purists. They're too catchy and mainstream sounding for them to like, but the intensity and brutality of some of the metal sections is way too much for the mainstream normal music listener to handle, or for anyone who doesn't like harsh vocals and intense djent and metalcore sounds. But I personally love bouncing between their two extremes here. I think they do it masterfully. And the title of the album is a play on Pale Blue Dot, a photograph of the Earth taken in 1990 by the Voyager 1 space probe from an unprecedented distance of over 6 billion kilometers away, where the Earth appears as a tiny dot against the vastness of space. This album has a loose concept album. It's a thematic concept rather than a narrative one. Every song ties to the central theme of loneliness in some way. The Mr. God intro here reminds me of Nocturne by Tesseract. So if all that sounds good to you, definitely check out A Pale White Dot by Periphery, which dropped on May 15th, 2026. That's my number 2 album of the year so far. My number 1 is by Devin Townsend. It came out May 29th. It's The Moth. And this is a progressive metal rock opera with symphonic, classical, avant-garde, and ambient influences. And it's a masterpiece. Check out the track Enter the City for a preview. This is Devin Townsend's 23rd album, I think. He's a Canadian musician. Hard to count which albums count because he's done some under the name Devin Townsend Band, the Devin Townsend Project. I think he put out one as like Punky Brewster. He's got albums under the Casualties of Cool, which I don't really count as solo project because it's more of a collaboration with the female singer. And he has his band Strapping Young Lad. He's worked with Steve Vai. And this one by Devin is a whole concept album rock opera. He's been working on it for many years. He performed the rock opera live before he recorded the album, and he announced the one-time show in the Netherlands with a choir and orchestra to perform this, and it wouldn't be staged anywhere else in the world. He ended up announcing a second date there, so he did it on more than one night, but he only did it there. And that's probably the only place that anyone will ever see this performed live the way it's intended with the choir and orchestra, except for it was recorded, of course, on video, so there is a DVD that you can get of that. But I don't think he'll ever take that on the road with such an expensive ensemble. He might do the track here or there from this album live on future live tours. I'd be interested to see how he pulls it off. He'll probably have to use a lot of samples for the orchestral parts. But The Moth tells the story of the human experience from birth to death, comparable to the transformation of a caterpillar into a moth. It symbolizes the human quest for meaning. It offers perspective on the fear of death through analogy and narrative. And ever since Devin witnessed the large musicals like Jesus Christ Superstar and Phantom of the Opera in the 70s, he's seen this project as his calling. It's been in the making for over a decade, and Townsend has been building towards it for 30 years. Before this album came out, I watched recordings of the live show on YouTube. It just blew my mind. The singles released ahead of the full album were amazing. The album versions of the songs, I think, are even stronger than the live versions. And yeah, currently my album of the year at this time, strong contender for album of the year overall at the end of the year, I think, although there's some really heavyweight stuff coming out soon. So it might be hard for it to hold this title. True masterpiece to your album. It's probably my 3 favorite Devin Townsend albums of all time, along with Empath and Deconstruction. And he has a lot of great albums to choose from, though he also does have some duds that I find annoying and unlistenable, like the Ambient Noise albums, Dev Lab, and The Hummer. But Devin is truly a man with a lot of talent. He's got a lot of variety in his tastes. He can master these grand, epic, cinematic, orchestral Broadway musical vibes. He can also master chunky metal riffs and screams. Also, beautiful vocal melodies, soaring operatic vocals, clean vocals. He's just a vocal master. His guitar riffs are amazing. The big wall of sound production that he commonly uses is a really cool sound. And on some of his other albums, he gets more chill and ambient than this, sometimes even mainstream, accessible pop rock sounds. And you can hear moments of those types of sounds sprinkled in here as well. But on this album, he really focuses on the grand, the orchestral, the cinematic, Broadway musical style mixed with metal. So if that sounds good to you, check out The Moth by Devin Townsend. That's it for my top 15 albums of 2026 so far. What are your favorites of the year so far? Let me know down below. And what do you think of my list? And if you like metal rock and prog music, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop when I post new videos. I'm planning on posting probably a July album release radar, which will talk about new music that's coming out in July 2026 that I plan to listen to. I'll put up my top 10 albums of June 2026 soon. And I still want to get around to putting up my ideal Rush setlist video. So if you like the sounds of that, stay tuned and peace out.